So as I understand it, you just got back from a trip from Sweden, right?
Yes, that's correct.
What was it, a work trip, trip for fun? What were you doing out there?
Actually, I was just uh, going to a region in Sweden to check out how their Reko Rings works
Okay.
there, and since I live quite close, but it's a couple of years ago, also because of COVID, I haven't been there and just to check out. And I had a lot of meetings with admins, producers, and consumers, and I also participated in two deliveries.
Oh, great. That's
And
fantastic. So you brought from Finland some of your food over into Sweden for delivery?
no, 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 not at all, not at all. It was just to check out.
Oh,
So
okay.
it was also quite nicely covered by media. So I think I gave four newspaper interviews during the 3 days.
Wow. Busy 3 days.
Yeah, yeah, it was it was excellent. Yeah, yeah, in many ways, except for the region was uh, they were having a quite severe drought there right now, so it
Really?
wasn't so easy
Hmm.
for them with their agriculture.
Okay, interesting. I didn't realize they were going through a drought. We've been getting a lot of media reports in the United States of a lot of extra rain coming down through some of the southeastern states. So we're getting a lot of rainfall over here right now. Um,
They
but
should need it.
yes, yes, they're I think that they're happy there with it. Now, to get things started, I know you and I spoke about a year, well, maybe a year and a half ago now. It's been a little while, and you gave me a bit of your background in farming and how you got into it. And I'd like to just go over that first, and then delve into some Reko specific things because a lot of people that will be watching this won't be familiar with the Reko concept yet. It's still fairly new in the United States. So to start off, tell us how did you get into farming? How long have you been working as a farmer?
I grew up on a small farm here in the western part of Finland, and actually I have no farming education, but and I have eight siblings, four sisters and four brothers.
How about that?
So it's and then the second youngest of this group. But I was very I liked I liked the work on the farm and especially work in the forest. So after my military service, I asked my siblings if it would be possible for me to continue with the farm, and they agreed. So now it's 42 years ago when I become a farmer myself.
Wow, 42 years. So you started military service. Is that required for all young men in Finland or?
Yeah, yes, yeah, it's still that way. It's still that way. So you are yeah.
All right.
So
And
it's at the age I was 18 or 19 when I made this military services.
and how
So
old were you when you transitioned into farming? Is it a 2 year, a 4 year stint in the military?
I was only 8 months.
Oh, only 8 months. Okay. So 19, 20 years old and you're taking over the farm.
Yeah, but I started to milk the cows already when I was 11. So I
Okay.
had um, uh, back home. So uh, I've been a farmer for more than 40 years,
Yeah.
and I've been working also inside the local farmers union during the years, and always been involved in different projects. So it's in the 90s I converted my farm into organic,
Now
and
what prompted that decision? Why did you decide to convert it to organic?
uh, I see because we at the time I had a little farm with milking cows, and it seemed easy to to convert when the government in Finland promoted you got some money to convert, and I
Hmm.
already had thought about it, but but with the money given from the government, I thought it was no risk to convert.
Yeah.
So actually, I wanted already before, but that made me do the decision. So it's and then I started to to promote organic produce locally where I live, and it was always difficulties to get them in on the shelves in the shops and supermarkets.
Hmm.
Uh, it was possible to discuss with the processing industry. We were quite a lot of farmers in the area converting at the time, so we had we had enough stuff to start processing
Yeah.
milk and meat, but it was I think we perhaps was a little bit too early. Organic was not so popular.
Yeah. So this was early 90s, you said this started happening?
Early 90s. I converted in
Yep.
1990, so it's
Okay.
so uh, I tried worked about with different tasks in this area for a couple of years, but I think I failed. I didn't find any good solutions to reach out to the consumers. So so a little bit later, or 15 years later, when I visited France and I was shown to a community support for agriculture delivery, which I never heard about this before, never ever.
Hmm.
It was like the concept was totally new. And
Yeah.
when I saw this delivery and spoke with the consumers and producers, I found that this is genius, and I would like to implement something similar in Finland. So that's actually 2012 when this happened. Uh, that was like the beginning for the becoming Reko direct
Yeah.
selling.
So you went to France, you said, and that's where you were introduced to CSA or community supported agriculture. Was the CSA model just unheard of in Finland? So at that point?
Yeah. I'd never heard. Personally, I'd never heard about
Yeah.
it before. So I started to search on the internet if we had existing CSAs in the Nordic countries, for
Right.
example, in Sweden, Finland, and Norway, but I couldn't find
Nothing you could find.
anyone. Though I think there existed some already at the time, but when I searched, I couldn't find them. So I thought
Interesting.
I have to do the work myself. I
Yeah.
thought.
What's interesting is at least in the United States still, even though there are a lot of CSA farms, doing a Google search and trying to find local farmers is more difficult than people realize, because you're up there competing against Walmart and Kroger's and all of the big, Costco, all of the big um, grocery store chains. They're pushing out their advertising budget to show, if you search local produce near me or local farm food near me, Walmart, Smith's, Costco, nothing like you would expect.
Okay.
Now, I'm curious. So when you converted your farm to organic, so jumping back a little bit, I wanted to touch on ask a little bit what does that process look like? Because we've got a lot of farmers here in the United States that are either first generation farmers on a new plot of land, and they're looking to do an organic or regenerative farm, is I think the new term I'm hearing a lot of is regenerative farming. What's the process for converting into an organic farm from what you were doing before?
Uh, at this moment, it was very hard to find information about organic agriculture where I live. So I found a book written by a Swedish author that became my Bible, you could say,
Hmm.
because
What was the book?
It's Ingrid Kjellander. It was like, how should I explain it in English? It was I don't remember anymore
Okay.
the title of the book
Okay.
anyway, but it was very helpful for me because mainstream agriculture in Finland didn't have any place for organic at all at this
Hmm.
that time. So I had to search for information from outside. But from my point of view, it's like just another mindset. You have to look how nature takes care of things and try to help nature to do the things you want to do yourself. So
Hmm.
uh, uh, for the moment, after 32 years as an organic farmer, I I feel quite sure about having some kind of yield, quite quite good. I think so. I'm very happy with this, and I never change back
Yeah.
to chemistry again. That's for sure.
So you said something interesting. You said as an organic farmer, the kind of if you to put it in a high level, you're trying to let nature help you do what you want to do.
Yeah, that's thing because uh, um for the future we should like try to improve photosynthesis and reduce use of fossil energy.
Hmm.
That's a very simple rule, but it's the most important rule ever in agriculture.
Okay. So can you give me some examples of that? So some people that will watch this will have no background on farming at all. Give me an
Okay,
example
okay.
of
Oh,
how you used to do things with chemicals or otherwise, and what you do instead now. Just if you can think of any simple examples.
yeah. What should I mention so for example, when you keep animals on pasture, before I used to let them eat everything away from an area before I moved into another, but now I let them only eat perhaps half the
Hmm,
grass. And that means you always leave green leaves on, on the field, so you never stop the photosynthesis. For
got it.
example, that's and at the same time you fix carbon in the soil, and you help microlife in the soil to improve. So you try to reach some kind of good balance, and it's I should have been preparing something because I didn't know that I would have this kind of questions.
Yeah.
So it's but um, for examples, you have to make weeds your friends sometimes because I perhaps have more
Hmm,
weeds than my neighbors sometimes. Sometimes I have even less weeds than my conventional neighbors,
yeah.
but normally it's a little bit more. But yeah,
So by making weeds your friend, I've been reading a little bit about this. So just so you know, I don't have a farm myself. My wife and I are setting up our house to have a little backyard garden and a little hoop house. But I've read a lot about using weeds as ground cover. Is that what you're talking about? Or
yes. Also, and some of the weeds cattle can eat them. So it's
hmm,
you nature does never like use monoculture normally. So if you follow how nature takes care of the soil and plants, then you don't have any monoculture.
got it.
But that's the mainstream in conventional farming that you use chemicals to only grow
Right. You just
wheat
grow one
or
crop.
corn or yeah.
Hmm. So speaking of which, like the mainstream culture of it, something that in the United States at least is starting to get a little more of a attention is this. It seems like you've got big agriculture that's pitted against local farmers, and it's a fight. Is it local farmers or big agriculture that's going to win? Do you see big agriculture as necessary to help with food production for the world, or if everyone were to go purchase from local farmers, would we have enough food for everybody? Would that be more
Yeah,
sustainable?
I think of course we can't stop directly to convert into a more sustainable food production system globally. It takes decades
Yeah,
because uh, and I've been studying some interesting proposals how we should convert it, and I'm depending on what kind of soil you have. You have you don't need to convert into organic always, but
hmm
you should take nature more in account doing the farming. And
right.
I think to have a little bit more resilience, you need also to diversify the production system. So uh, I don't think it will happen, but if if everyone decided now we should change the system, I think it would take 40, 50 years before, because at the same time you have to to keep up the food production. You can't do
Right.
it directly because there's not you need more knowledge
Yeah.
and of course the bad thing from my point of view is like the agribusiness won't allow this. They want to make money out from agriculture, and if you follow the rules of nature, there's not so much place for agrobusiness.
Meaning that it's less profitable when
Yeah, you don't need so much input like of course you need seeds in some extension and some fertilizer, but you should reduce, as I said, the simple rule: maximize photosynthesis and minimize use of fossil fuel.
I like that. Yeah, maximize photosynthesis, minimize fossil fuels. That's a
Yeah,
great rule to go by.
yeah, and it's so simple. And if you do this, then it gives hope for the future.
Yeah. Now, all right. So tell me this though, because this is interesting. And I took this article with a grain of salt, but I read an opinion piece recently that was saying something along the lines of farmers are creating uh, too much carbon and it's causing climate change. And so there's this kind of like so there's the situation with the Dutch farmers and the Dutch government. But then even there's it seems to be this small growing group of people that seems to think that we need to regulate farmers because they're causing too much pollution or too much, with cows with methane and things like that. What's your take on that?
Um, yeah, it's a very complex question, of course, but you need to have the amount of cattle in proportion to the surface you got. So for Dutch farming, it's not like sustainable to
Hmm.
uh, send away boats with shit to Africa.
Right.
So it's uh, I think it common sense tells you what's good, even if it's difficult for me sitting in Finland and say what they should do in
So you're
in
telling
Holland.
me that it's not natural to take a boatload of cow manure and ship it to a different country.
Yeah, that's what they are doing.
Right.
Yeah. So it's you need to find the balance
Hmm.
in what you do
Okay.
between food production and and at the same time, if you do it right, you also stock a lot of carbon in the surface, and that's good also to reduce the emissions in
Yeah.
the
Now,
atmosphere.
I think this is a good transition to talk about Reko a little bit because you've hit on some interesting things, whereas you've transitioned into an organic farm and talking about this. So if you're a farmer that truly believes in the principles that you've put forth, which is increase photosynthesis, decrease reliance on fossil fuels, there's less profit there. And I assume there's a lot less profit if you're trying to sell your food to grocery stores or restaurants. But when you can go directly to customers, it seems like that seems to be the model that works the best for farmers that have a mind like yours that are like, yeah, we need to have a sustainable way to do this. So let's go back to we hinted about Reko earlier. This is something that you pioneered. You're the inventor of Reko Rings as of, if I remember, 2012, 2013 was when the
Yes,
first Reko Ring started.
we started to plan for it in by the end of 2012, but we started then in 2013, and the very first delivery took place 6th of June
6th of
2000,
June.
2013. So it's a little bit more than 10 years
Okay.
since we started now.
And now let's tell like where did the name Reko come from and what is a Reko ring?
The name Reko comes from because I live in a area in Finland where we are bilingual. Well, half the population speak Finnish and half the population speak Swedish because myself I belongs to Swedish minority. So I needed an expression for that would useful in these both languages. And I should mention right now that it was never meant to spread around the world. Never.
Really?
It was meant just for us locally to get access to local food. That was my intention at the beginning. So I needed so Reko stays for in Swedish reell consumption, and in Finnish it's reilua kuluttamista. It's you can use it on both in both languages, but yeah, that's where the name how it became this name, and I never forced anyone abroad to use this
Right. Well, and
Reko.
it roughly translated, is it fair consumption or
Fair consumption, yes, yes. Or you could also perhaps say relation consumption.
relation consumption? Okay. Like
Yeah,
having a
that
direct relation with the farmer.
yeah, yes, yes. Giving a face to the food.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you started well, actually here's something. Is it how do you pronounce it? In the United States I've heard Reko, Reko. I've heard, so that's the Reko or Reko. Is it either way? Which way
Yeah,
do
yeah,
you pronounce it?
you can use both because here in Finland we say Reko, but in Sweden they say Reko. So
Okay.
it's up to you. You pronounce it as you want So it's and as I said, it was invented for my local society. It was
Right.
never meant to spread around.
Right.
So
And now
didn't think about you when I invented the name.
but it's quite remarkable. So you started this 2000 June 2013 was the first Reko drop, and we're sitting here 10 years later, and Reko is in dozens of countries around the world now, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's in uh, about 20 different countries on 4 different continents with about 3.5 million members.
Yeah. And how many of those members are in Finland alone?
In Finland, we have about 700,000.
700,000 now.
Yeah,
So
when the total population is 5.5 million, that means we are about 12-13% of the total population are a member
that
in the
is
record.
remarkable. I was about to say the same thing because last we spoke a year and a half ago, you told me it was about 450,000. And so I was like, wow, they're almost there at 10% of the population. Now over 700,000 people, over 10% of the Finnish population uses Reko Rings in order to have direct relationships with farmers to get their
Uh,
food.
of course, not the majority doesn't buy anything, but they still follow. So it's quite special kind of consumer that actually buys. But still, as I said, we established our circle ring 10 years ago, and as an admin I can check out how many members goes monthly to look on our Facebook site.
Yeah.
And I checked when I was in Sweden. Now I checked out. So we in our circle we have 6,800 members, and during the last month 5,100 had visited the site.
Wow.
That means uh, I think it's very hard to find a free Facebook group where after 10 years 80% of the members are on a monthly base visit the site.
Right. They're still actively coming back to look every
And
single month. Yeah.
they just want to check out what's happening, what's offered,
Right.
and so still interesting after 10 years.
Yeah.
I found this quite extraordinary myself.
That is extraordinary. Now let's back up a little bit because I just realized we haven't said exactly what a Reko ring is. So some people listening might be going, what is this Reko ring? So you've talked about Facebook groups, and explain how a Reko ring works. What is a Reko ring? How does it work?
You could shortly say it's an online farmers market,
Okay.
but we use Facebook as the platform, and since we use Facebook as the platform, we don't need any middlemen at all. So as an admin, we are the only thing the admins do. They decide when and where a delivery takes place for the members in a certain Reko circle.
Mm-hmm.
And then all the producer that likes to participate, they put an announcement on the Facebook site, and afterwards consumers start to order by writing comments under the announcement.
Right.
So it's no one outside gets any money. 100% of the money paid by the consumer goes directly to the farmer.
Direct to the farmer. Yeah.
There's no middlemen at all.
Yeah. And so you've mentioned three pieces here. You have the admin or the administrator, and
Yeah.
this is the person who organizes the group. And then you have the producers, and the producers is anyone that wants to sell food in the group, and then the customers who are buying from the both the admin and the producers, right?
Yep.
And is so in the United States, the way that they've done it, I'm curious if it's the same there. All of the order or all of the payments happen in advance. So
No, yeah, we don't use that system here in Finland. In Sweden they use it a lot also, but
okay.
in Finland it happens, but it's most common that you pay when you pick up
So
your
you
order.
comment on the post, say, hey, I'd like some, and then when you show up is when you pay them.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the common system, but I know it's different between different countries.
Yeah.
So in Sweden it's quite often it's paid before. It's
Yeah.
like at the same time yeah, it's confirmed that your order is valid.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons we've spoken with many of the Reko Rings in the United States, and one of the reasons they have to do payment in advance in some areas is because if they take payment on site, then they have to classify as either a farmer's market or some other organization, and then the government takes a hefty portion of either in fees to be there or some other way. So if they take all the payment in advance, then it keeps the model, like you said, there's no middleman, nobody else takes a piece of the pie. All of the money's going straight to the farmers there.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different regulations in different countries. So in Finland, it's not a problem. You can pay when picking up.
Yeah. And so what you've probably more than anyone you've probably spoken with more admins, more producers, and more customers in Reko Rings, and the growth here is incredible. So as I've studied different I would almost say Reko Ring is a technology. It's it's its own way of doing business, and the way that it has organically grown in the last 10 years is almost unheard of. What do you think drives that growth? Is it just the customer appeal to be able to have that relationship with the farmer?
No, I think it's of course different things. First of all, it's so simple, and you don't need to invent any tools.
Yeah.
Everything exists already. It's just if you like to have access to local food, you start a circle and discuss with producers and try to get them involved and come on the train and start delivering. And it's also, I think if you speak about the success, I think it's also a question of timing. I never, in the beginning, I didn't think about Facebook as the platform. We use the same thing as in France with written contracts between producers and consumers for a tryout period of 2 months. But since Facebook were very popular at the time, we established also a Facebook group beside just for the discussion, because everything was new to everyone. We didn't have a experience about this. It was like an ongoing discussion between farmers and consumers. So we started this Facebook group beside. After a while, after some 1, 2, 3 deliveries, consumers started to write on the Facebook group that we don't have any contract with this vegetable grower, but could we please have some produce for next delivery?
Yeah.
So this went on, and after 2 months, most producers said we don't need any contracts anymore. We use the Facebook.
Interesting.
So I didn't. It wasn't me. I didn't choose the Facebook. It was like it just happened.
It just happened. So because you started with the CSA model where there's a contract or a subscription, but then after a while, it seems like the customers were happier just to buy what they needed when they needed it, and that made the farmers gave them enough business.
Yeah, and it's also much more flexible, because with the normal CSA, you are forced to participate every time. You have like made a contract with the consumer that you will show up for half a year or something every delivery.
Right.
But this is every delivery is like you decide if you participate or not. As a producer, you are not obliged to participate. It's just to if you want to have go on vacation, you go,
Yeah.
so it's, and also for the consumer, you are not forced to pick up every delivery, so it's much more flexible.
Yeah, so if you go on vacation, like you mentioned, or if you don't need as much food that week, you don't need as many groceries, then you just buy what you need when you need it, or as a producer, sell what you need when you need it. Now, so with your farm now, is 100% of your business done in Reko Rings, or do you also sell outside of Reko Rings?
Uh, uh, if I tell you the truth, I almost sell nothing through the Reko Rings.
Really?
Uh, yeah, because uh, since I'm involved in so many different things around Europe,
Yeah.
in Finland, so uh, I only produce calves for the moment, and then I sell them for when they are half a year old to
Okay.
other breeders.
Right.
So I don't sell any meat or something. Though I sell sometimes berries.
Hmm.
I like to pick berries in the forest. It's like good for my mental health. It's like a meditation to be in the
Yeah.
forest picking blueberries and lingonberries and cranberries or whatever.
Yeah.
So I sell sometimes berries, uh, but me myself, I'm more a customer than a producer on the record.
Okay, so all right, so that's now, but rewind to 2013, 2014. So
That
because
was it was the same. It
it
was
was
the
the
same.
same. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know, are there any farmers that you know or any producers that you know that most of their business is happening in the Reko Rings, or is most of it similar where they do some in the Reko Rings, but the majority of it is elsewhere?
Yeah, that you could say that's the main situation. But I know a lot that's selling exact everything they produce
Hmm.
through the, and I also know a lot some young farmers that are starting their businesses, and they use this as their only channel to reach the consumers. So it's also good for beginners and starters to try out if
Yeah.
they like the work to be a producer, whatever they then produce. But so they don't need to do big investments before they can check out if they are happy with the lifestyle
Right.
that means. So it has helped a lot of young farmers to get started.
Yeah. So do you as you're thinking about these new farmers that are getting started, and this is something my wife and I have talked about, that we'd love to buy a 2 or 3 acre plot and eventually start into farming. Is there is there a little bit of like a golden halo around farming where people imagine it's going to be this beautiful, wonderful lifestyle, and then when rubber hits the road, it actually is a lot harder? What's your advice to new farmers or people that are thinking about getting into farming?
I normally say start in a small scale,
What's real quick,
and
define that. What's small scale? Because that's going to mean
uh,
different things to different people.
yeah. I should put it in working hours. If you are like growing vegetables,
Okay.
don't grow, don't use more than 20 or 30 hours per week
Hmm. Okay.
for the production when you start, because uh, you learn so much during the starting progress. So if you start too big and don't have enough time to handle the situation, then it's more it's crucial. I think you give up. But if you start and can control the situation in the beginning, and then you can grow up to the scale you like, perhaps next year or in
Right.
the future. So make make it slowly, and if you are not like a professional grower from before, then it's different kind of situations. But if you are totally new, start. I normally give the advice: start in a reasonable size, so you can handle it and be happy, and not exhausted
Yeah.
with the work that never have time to do anything else than this. So it's, as I said, with agriculture, you should also be in balance with yourself.
Oh, fast. I love that, being balanced with yourself. And it sounds like, if so, from based on your advice, if I'm starting and saying I want to dedicate 20 hours a week to this, that leaves me plenty of time if I have a day job that I need to do to provide for myself. So I'm not just jumping in, getting into this business where I have no idea what I'm doing. And if I mess up and my crops fail, then I have to throw in the towel and quit because I put all of my eggs in something that I had no idea what was really expected of me.
Yeah, I think that was a very good conclusion.
Yeah. Now, what about for home growers? So people that this is another question that comes up a lot. What are some of the best things that most people could just grow on the side of their yard or even in their house that can bring a little bit of homegrown food to their life? What do you think some of the best things to grow for them are?
If you speak about homegrown food, then it's what kind of food you like to eat yourself. It's like you have to check out not what's the easiest thing to grow, but what would you like to have on your plate.
What would you actually like to eat?
Yeah, so it's uh, if it's mainly made for your own purposes, then it should be what you like to eat yourself.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Of course you can try new interesting stuff also, so just to so but yeah, and I think that's also very sustainable, because if you grow your own vegetables and you pick it just before you take it, then you don't need any fossil fuel. As I already mentioned,
Right.
you can prepare it directly. You don't now need to boil it or put it in the fridge or something. Every time you use this, then you use some kind of energy that mainly is fossil. So it's very good for the environment and for the future that you use as little energy as possible. So the very best thing is when you pick your own vegetables and eat them even
Right.
raw.
Yeah.
Then
That
it's
then
carrots and stuff like this. Then that's
Yeah. So for home growers that just want to grow something, number one, grow what you love to eat. And two, one of the great benefits, it sounds like, that you're saying, is if you're talking about photosynthesis compared to fossil fuels, home growers don't have to use any fossil fuels, and so they can maximize that ratio of just photosynthesis.
yes.
Yeah,
That we should teach this to a lot of people. Then we could have
yeah.
a great future for the planet.
Absolutely. So I have just a couple more questions for you. Number one, thank you so much for your time again today, Thomas. Very enlightening conversation. Love everything that you've done to push the agricultural movement back to something that is sustainable, natural, in harmony with nature, and makes it easier for customers to have direct relations with farmers in their areas. My last question for you actually has something to do with what you just said about being in harmony with yourself. And I'm curious, you said you've been farming for over 40 years. What are some of the big takeaway lessons that you've learned from farming that are more life applicable skills, whether it's, how do you stay in harmony with yourself, or what else has farming taught you that's helped balance and center your life?
Uh, when I started as a farmer, I was full of energy, and I had like big plans for my farming and the future. at the same time I established my own family and had 4 kids. And you can work a lot for 10, 15 years. But if you are loaded with too much work for a very, very long period, that's not good for your personal balance. So actually, I was a milk producer from when I started as a farmer 1981 until 1998. And I was totally exhausted. I actually I never went to the hospital, but I was burned out. So it took me a couple of years before I came back to some kind of good balance. When I quit with milking cows, I converted into beef cattle, and that made my life so much easier because I only used 20% working hours compared to the situation before. So actually, I found myself being on vacation all the time compared to my life before.
Yeah.
So then I start. It took me a couple of years before I got my energy back. But when 2001, I was more than 40 years. But I decided if you're a farmer in the European Union, you should be able to speak French. So I went to France because it's the main language in agriculture in Europe.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so I went to France working on a farm for a couple of months just to learn the language.
Wow.
And I succeeded. So now I speak quite fluently
Okay.
French also.
How many languages do you speak? You speak English, Finnish, Swedish, French?
How you count, so of course Danish and Norwegian, some German also, so eight languages perhaps.
Wow. Truly remarkable.
Yeah, I've been lucky. So it's and when you travel in Europe with a lot of different languages, it's good to at least speak French and English. You manage almost everywhere, and German also, of course. My German is not so good, but I can understand quite well.
Yeah.
So it's but as I said, when I quit with the milk production, then I haven't been so overloaded with work, and I feel I've been quite imbalanced almost all the time. Of course, you have days when you work a lot,
Right.
of course, but over the years, it's not so much. So I'm involved in a lot of different things, also outside agriculture, and I never feel stressed anymore, and I sleep very well during the nights, and every day is a new possibility.
Yeah. So that's a good sum up. That brought up one more question, though. You said you're involved in a lot of things outside of agriculture, which I expected to hear. What are some of your favorite non-agriculture related activities? What do you like to do to relax and unwind and have fun?
I like to watch sports. I used to be an athlete myself as a young when I was a teenager. I'm also involved in development of society, so I've been a little bit political involved in, and I also involved in a project to start to produce biogas from waste here in the municipality where I live. But perhaps the most interesting is to maintain contact with people from different countries. So I think during the last 12 years, I've arranged um, student exchange for about 100 students from France to Finland, and I sent
Wow.
in the other direction 30, 40 students. So this is things that keep you in a very good mood. I like to 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 help the young students, and for example, uh, students coming from France, they normally don't speak any other language than French.
Hmm.
Nowadays they can manage in English also quite good, so it's not so difficult. But to know you have a person in the country that can help you if you have some kind of problems.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, I'm like a person that they can rely upon when they come, and I try to help. And when you give something, often you are receiving 10 times more back. So when
Yeah.
I go to France, I never stay at a hotel, or almost never. I'm always invited to people's home. Just I was a week in April in France, and I invited by a school, but and then I spent one night at the hotel, but the other 6 nights I spent with families, and every night at different families. So it gives you so much, and I feel myself very privileged.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for that. You've had a remarkable impact, shared a lot of great wisdom, great insight and experience with the people here who are viewing this podcast. Appreciate all that you do. And for anyone that's interested in following along with Thomas, I believe you can follow Thomas on Facebook. Is that right? Facebook's the best place to keep up with what you're doing?
Yes, it might be, yes, because I'm not actually not using other platforms normally, and if I still add this, my Facebook career started with Reko. I never used Facebook before Reko
Before
started.
Reko.
So I had to start to use it because they all quite often asked me different questions, so I had to answer the questions.
Right.
So actually, I started my career on Facebook the same date as we established the Facebook group for our Reko. It was the 21st of March 2013.
Look at that. All right. So follow him on Facebook if you want, but you may or may not get in touch with him. Maybe the best way is take a trip to Finland and visit one of his Reko rings. Or if you're in the United States, there are several Reko rings in the United States right now. You can find them if you Google Reko ring and then type in your area. You might find them pop up, or you might find them in private Facebook groups and start visiting local farmers and local producers in your area. Thank you very much, Thomas. Really appreciate it. Any last things you want to say?
I think globally there is about 800 Reko rings for the moment.
800 in the world.
Yeah, I think
Fantastic.
it's about, it's not exactly, but I think only in Scandinavia we have a little bit more than 500.
Fantastic. 500
So
in Scandinavia, 300 others throughout the world. And I won't say it's on accident, but like you said, you did not intend for this to be a global phenomenon.
no, I didn't. I
Yeah,
didn't. It just happened, and of course I'm proud.
absolutely, as you should be. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Thomas. Hopefully we get to have you on again in the future to talk some more. And maybe by that time we'll see something like 1 million or 2 million users in Reko rings just in Finland.
No, I think we had reached peaked right now, but it's still helping a lot of producers to make their living, and it's also in giving interaction between producers and consumers. And very, very special thing, it has also created a good network between producers. And that I think myself is one of the very most important things.
Is a network of producers.
Yeah, because they have co-producers, they have friends, they don't need to only discuss price with cooperatives and big business. They have fellow farmers to discuss with, and I think for their mental balance, it's very good to have this network.
All right. Fantastic. Well, thank you, Thomas, and hopefully we get to connect again in the future.
Yeah, why not?
Yep.
I think I'd be happy to participate if you like.
All right. Have a wonderful rest of your evening.